E a gente tinha prometido na última semana, né, mostrar hoje a entrevista que a Ana Paula Henkel fez com o CEO da Getter, o Jason Miller. Então a gente vai ver um trecho dessa entrevista e na volta a gente comenta.
Bom, pessoal, hoje estamos aqui com Jason Miller, que está aí encarregado da nova rede social Getter, que promete e anda cumprindo à risca aí a defesa da liberdade de expressão, liberdade de imprensa, num período aí tão estranho, né, onde as liberdades estão sendo cerceadas. E aqui com o Jason Miller nós vamos conversar sobre o que aconteceu no Brasil, quando ele foi detido pela Polícia Federal no aeroporto antes de embarcar para os Estados Unidos, e sobre outros assuntos que a gente vem debatendo aqui no programa também, como a economia nos Estados Unidos, as eleições de 2020, Donald Trump e muito mais. Mr. Miller, thank you so much for being here with us. It's a great pleasure to talk to you again. Brazilians fell in love with you.
Well, Ana, welcome to New York. It's great to be here at Getter headquarters. And of course, last time I saw you, we were in Brasilia and then had the opportunity to talk with you on Jovem Pan. And so it was right after a lot of fireworks, you could say, in Brasilia.
Well, thank you so much. So I guess I will start with an apology on behalf of good Brazilian citizens that saw the whole thing that happened to you when you were detained for hours in the airport of São Paulo,
Brasilia.
In Brasilia. By our federal police, and you did know what was going on at that time. So tell us again how the whole thing started, and please accept our apologies. We know that things are a bit crazy in Brazil with one Supreme Court justice, in particular, Alexandre de Moraes. So tell us again what happened that day.
Yes, and first I got to say, no need to apologize. Love Brazil, love the people of Brazil. Can't wait to come back. And in fact, folks, get ready. We're coming back to Brazil soon, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But so when we came into town for CPAC in the beginning of September, and obviously that was the Conservative Action Conference, and President Bolsonaro spoke, and Eduardo Bolsonaro spoke, and a whole bunch of other, you were speaking there as well. I had the opportunity to speak. And we stayed for a couple of extra days and had the opportunity to go visit with President Bolsonaro at the presidential palace, which was very cool. I showed up in a suit, totally out of place. I look like a total idiot. President Bolsonaro was a little bit more relaxed. So in the future, if President Bolsonaro invites you to the pool, do not wear a suit. You'll look out of place. I did take my tie off though, so I got a little bit more casual. And then as we were leaving, we left the morning of September 7th. Which, by the way, the fake news was saying that all the Bolsonaro supporters were going to cause chaos and havoc. And of course, there was
Did you get to see the whole crowd in the streets of the
so
of
patriotic?
Yeah.
It was, in fact, when I saw President Trump, and I'll tell you more about this, I said, "Mr. President, I go, there's someone who gets bigger crowds than you. It's President Bolsonaro."
And what did he say, President Trump?
I don't think he was too excited. He's like, I get the biggest crowds. I'm like, no, President Bolsonaro gets even bigger crowds. But as we were leaving the airport, the morning of the 7th, we go through the metal detectors, and there are a couple of plainclothes police officers that were waiting for us and said, "Mr. Miller, follow us this way." I'm like, "Well, what's this about? Is this the way to the plane?" They said, "No, we need to ask you some questions." So we follow them into a federal police holding room, and we down the escalator and go in there and ask the question, "Am I under arrest?" I said, "No." And I go, "Can I leave?" They said, "We need you to answer some questions." I'm like, okay. And so it wasn't completely a surprise. I'd heard these stories about the Supreme Court and the fact that a lot of Americans don't realize, and even quite frankly myself, is that a Supreme Court justice in Brazil, as you know, one rogue actor Supreme Court justice can investigate, prosecute, really try to make people's lives hell if they want to. And again, they're not beholden to anybody, and it's almost impossible to remove them. So as we're sitting there, of course, they say to me, "Well, Mr. Miller, if you want to sign this 5-page document that's written in Portuguese, you say you have nothing to say, you can go ahead and leave." And I'm like, "Well, I don't speak Portuguese. I'm not going to sign a letter written in Portuguese, some legal document that I have no idea." So, okay, what is it you want to ask me questions about? I said, "Well, I want to ask you questions about 2 separate secret investigations." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What are these investigations about?" They said, "Well, they're secret." So literally, it couldn't even find out what it was about. And all this transpires over a couple hours. And so they sent some of the folks in the party, in our traveling party, to the plane. And then they split me and the other gentleman who was with me up, and they started asking questions. And none of the investigators spoke English. I do not speak Portuguese. I have a tough enough time with English myself half the time. And so they bring in, and she was very nice and well-meaning, but essentially the airport concierge, the airport worker, she had a yellow reflective vest on, and they bring her in to translate. And I said to the investigator, I was like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not in law enforcement, but you're telling me I'm not under arrest, but I'm not free to go. You're telling me that if I sign something, then I can go, which I obviously don't speak Portuguese. I'm not going to sign some document. And then you want to ask me questions and have as an interpreter the airport worker. And like, this just doesn't seem right. Well, how can you have an airport worker, as nice as she might be the translation? Like, well, we just want to ask you some questions. So really, at this point, it's pretty clear that it's a kind of a Keystone Cops Mickey Mouse operation to try to just intimidate us. And so the first question, they wanted to know who invited you. And so, of course, I told them that CPAC Brazil, which, by the way, they did a great job in the Institute there in Brazil, did a fantastic job of putting it together. So I told them that. They said, well, who do you work for? And I said, well, I'm the CEO of Getter. And so they're like, well, where do you get all your money from? I'm like, well, I mean, I work for Getter. That's my full-time job. And they go, well, what about you personally? Where's, and I'm like, wait, you're asking me questions about my personal finances? This is kind of weird. Here's where it started to get a little bit interesting. Then they said, we want a list of everybody who you met with on your trip, anyone who's helping you to promote Getter in Brazil. And we want a list of all of your users in Brazil, all of your Getter users in Brazil.
How many at that point?
At that point, I think we're somewhere over right around 250,000. And I told them no. I said, call the U.S. Embassy. Like, this is ridiculous. And the thing that I kept thinking, now obviously there's a little bit of a farcical aspect to the entire detainment. But the only thing I kept thinking of, what would happen if I was a regular Brazilian citizen and I couldn't call the embassy? I couldn't call President Trump. I couldn't call a lawyer to come in and help. What if I was someone who just made my voice heard on YouTube? Right. Who would I call if I was just a regular Brazilian citizen?
You would be arrested.
You'd be arrested. And guess what? No one's coming in to magically save the day. I mean, you're in some real trouble. And that's when it really dawned on me just how serious this issue of free speech is in Brazil, how important it is. I think it's a God-given right that we should all have free speech. And that's literally our most important right in a democracy. And so ultimately then we get the embassy involved, and I was able to get a lawyer there to go and help out. And then we're off on our way. But it was really just kind of a reminder that free speech isn't always so free.
And how did this whole thing with being detained at the airport and making all the news, all not even in Brazil, but here in US, how did that affect Getter with Brazilian users? Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
So ultimately, we added about 100,000 people from Brazil during the week of the detainment, and so kind of jokingly told folks that if I knew that by being detained for 3 hours we get 100,000 new followers, I would have stayed for 6. And so it turned out okay, but it's I can make a little bit light of it now. But like I said, the thing I just kept thinking is, what if I didn't have anyone to call? What about if I was concerned about my free speech rights and just government entities would come and take it away simply because they said, oh, you're friends. And again, I'm not saying I'm friend, or you're friendly with the President Bolsonaro, so you don't get free speech rights, or you get a different set of free speech rights as, say, someone who is a political opponent of President Bolsonaro's. And I think that's wrong. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Different countries will have different versions of their free speech rights. But I think that's wrong when you start using political discrimination to say who can have free speech and who can't.
E olha, essa entrevista na íntegra vai estar disponível para a comunidade de apoiadores do nosso programa, tá bom? Então, você que contribui aí com o programa, que você que é um assinante premium, você terá acesso a esse conteúdo na íntegra, essa entrevista que a Ana fez com o Jason Miller, e ela vai comentar agora um pouquinho desse papo com o Jason. Ana.
Olha, Lacombe, foram quase 3 horas lá no quartel-general da Getter, né, em Nova York, um papo muito interessante sobre marxismo, eleições americanas, Brasil, esse absurdo que aconteceu com ele sendo detido no aeroporto de Brasília por agentes da Polícia Federal aí a mando do Alexandre de Moraes, agentes que nem inglês falavam e que pediam para ele assinar um documento em português para ser liberado. Falamos sobre a economia americana também, que eu até gostaria de ouvir aí do nosso economista aqui do time, o que ele achou. E dentro da entrevista toda falamos também de uma pergunta que todo mundo está fazendo, não apenas aqui nos Estados Unidos, mas no mundo, que é se Donald Trump vai concorrer à Casa Branca em 2024. A entrevista ficou muito bacana, cheia de detalhes, e ele declara, inclusive, na entrevista, o amor dele ao Brasil e o quanto ele quer investir também no Brasil nos próximos anos.
Bom, a Getter vai ser muito bem-vinda no Brasil, acho que já é o segundo mercado, né? E já está incomodando, pelo visto, Ana, porque já tem gente na imprensa chamando daquela rede social sem lei, né? Quer dizer, onde há liberdade para eles agora é terra sem lei, né? Com lei é onde há perseguição, controle soviético do que é dito. Bom, sobre o que o Jason Miller diz da economia americana e os alertas, a preocupação dele, eu compartilho na íntegra. Veja, o Joe Biden, ele está, como é que eu posso colocar isso de forma sutil? Ele está um tanto alucinado, né? Ele está achando que ele é o Roosevelt reencarnado com o seu New Deal, né? Que pegou numa situação de grande depressão e vai reconstruir a economia toda gastando trilhões e usando o Estado como a grande locomotiva desse progresso. O que as pessoas não sabem do ponto de vista histórico é que o New Deal foi um fracasso. Não salvou o capitalismo, postergou a recuperação americana. Tem um livro, The Forgotten Man, da Amity Shales, que é a colunista da Bloomberg, e esse livro é muito bom, porque ela mostra, né, tem muitos dados, muitos fatos ali, ela mostra primeiro a hiperatividade do governo Roosevelt naqueles famosos 100 dias, a quantidade de atos, de gastos, de anúncios, de obras mirabolantes, e depois ela vem mostrando como isso na prática não surtiu o efeito desejado, como isso atrasou a recuperação, como levou a uma inflação maior, a um desemprego que perdurou por muito tempo. E agora nós estamos vendo isso, né? No Brasil, a turma quer falar de inflação como se fosse um fenômeno local para culpar o presidente Bolsonaro, esquecendo, né, do resto do mundo e da pandemia, e da reação à pandemia, e desse tipo de medida que vários países e governos estão adotando. Não é só o Biden nos Estados Unidos, né? Então, a Alemanha, por exemplo, acabou de divulgar essa semana agora o maior índice de inflação em quase 3 décadas. Nos Estados Unidos mesmo, a inflação está acima de 5%, que para padrão americano é muito alto, e já tem cada vez mais analistas preocupados com onde isso vai parar. Então, de novo, né, essa ideia que o Biden traz para a economia, de que o Estado vai assumir esse papel por causa da crise, é sempre a metáfora, né, de uma guerra que precisa do gasto público, que precisa gastar trilhões e trilhões para gerar emprego, é sempre a mesma ladainha, né? Poxa, vamos estudar um pouquinho mais de história para ver o que aconteceu. Eu, na minha resenha a esse livro, The Forgotten Man, eu trago alguns dados aqui, né, mas os gastos federais de 35 eram o dobro do patamar de 30. O dobro. Em 5 anos dobraram os gastos, né? Mas quase 12 milhões de americanos ainda estavam sem emprego na época. A centralização também aconteceu muito nessa época ali, tudo era por meio do governo federal, isso gera ineficiências, corrupção, problemas até mesmo de liberdade, né? Foi na época do New Deal que, por exemplo, várias prerrogativas individuais foram abandonadas. Teve gente sendo presa ali por abaixar preço, né? Coisas bem bizarras aconteceram nessa época dos Estados Unidos. Foi a época americana que mais flertou com o fascismo, né? Com o fascismo. Então, nós estamos, talvez, revivendo isso, né? Sob esses nomes novos. Eles sempre mudam a embalagem, mas o conteúdo, na essência, é o mesmo. É o mesmo. Em 1937, muita gente esquece disso, 1937, depressão foi em 29, né? Ocorreu uma outra depressão dentro da Grande Depressão, né? O índice de ações, por exemplo, chegou a cair mais de 40%. O desemprego em 38 ainda estava acima de 17% no país. Que sucesso é esse? Que sucesso é esse da hiperatividade que salvou o capitalismo? Isso é uma falácia. Isso é coisa de gente que não estudou muito bem a história. O New Deal fracassou. O símbolo remetia às ideias fascistoides da Europa na época. E hoje o Joe Biden, de certa forma, está querendo reviver isso. Sem falar que o Roosevelt foi aquele que quis aumentar o número de juízes na Suprema Corte para diluir a resistência que ele encontrava ali, né? Algo um tanto chavista, vejam só.